we're having a presidential election. We were left with two candidates. One of them was forging ahead, and that candidate, Catherine Connolly, there was a deepfake video of her saying, "Oh, I'm dropping out of the race."
The only way you can truly know that it's real is by going to the source of the information to say, is this real or not?
Welcome to the AI Argument.
Welcome to the AI Argument. I am Frank Prendergast. I'm here as always with Justin Collery, and I can't wait for today's show because Justin, all the stuff is going wrong. All the stuff we talked about, it's all happening. You said it wouldn't happen.
No. I said bad things wouldn't happen. The things might be happening, but they're not bad.
They're not bad. I see.
Yeah. So, today is a big day. By the way, you may not know this. I ran for election once.
No.
Yeah, I did.
For what position?
For me, for a TD. I tried to become a TD once, many years ago.
No way.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Was this? Do you remember that story about Hunter S. Thompson trying to become mayor of Aspen or wherever? Was it a story like that?
I wish it was that exciting. But look at, who knows? But today, for those who don't know, today is a big day because today is election day in Ireland, and we're electing a president, which is not like a president in America. It's more like a king, which they don't like in America. So, as in they have no power and they can't do anything. Unlike kings in America who have loads of power and can do loads of things, maybe, or maybe they don't have one. I don't know.
It just made me think of, I don't know if you saw this. This is, I don't want to drag us down a rabbit hole now or anything, but
yes,
I only recently became aware of this no kings thing in America. And apparently there was a protest and everyone had these like signs saying no kings, etc., etc. And the White House officially said, Donald Trump is not a king. He's your president. However, Donald Trump himself released a AI-generated video on Truth Social of him in an airplane that said King Trump. And from the airplane, he was dropping large amounts of what looked like excrement onto protesters.
Very royal. I did.
The world, we live in a strange world, Justin. We live in a very strange
world. I was going down to do my civic duty today, earlier on this morning, which I hope you have and everybody that's been listening has as well. And it struck me that I would prefer to have an AI agent doing my voting for me. Wouldn't that be cool, right? So the AI could listen to, kind of like one of those Hume type devices that just listens to the way I talk. Maybe it shouldn't listen to me, but anyway, listens to the way I talk and so the opinions I have, and then goes off and researches, the different candidates and says, yeah, you align most with this person here, and just goes and votes for me. I mean, I don't want to go all the way to
in advance.
Yeah.
Would it tell you in advance who you're going to vote for?
Yeah. Just go do it. I don't even want to know. Just, based on who I am, just place a vote for me. I'm good with it. Whatever you got.
Chris, this dystopian future, you seem to see this dystopian future as a utopia.
Yes.
Yes, we're having a presidential election, and it's funny because I've been talking about this because of what happened with AI, and I keep having to explain to people, yes, it's not a presidential election as you have in the US when I'm talking to Americans, but nonetheless, it was quite serious that we had some attempted AI interference. Well, actually, who knows? Possibly, maybe it is AI interference. We don't know the impact that it had. An AI deepfake video. We had three candidates initially. One of them dropped out, so we were left with two candidates. One of them was forging ahead, and that candidate, Catherine Connolly, there was a deepfake video of her saying, "Oh, I'm dropping out of the race," and deepfakes of RTE presenters and journalists saying, she's dropped out. The election is now not happening, and her opponent, Heather Humphreys, is now president by default. And I think it was Barry Scannell, I think, spotted it on Facebook, and he posted about it on LinkedIn about the quality of the AI video. Now, Barry Scannell is immersed in AI. I mean, he's a top voice in AI. He's totally immersed in it. He keeps up with all of the tools, and he had a difficult time identifying it as AI video. And the thing that, the thing that made him realize, yes, this is AI generated, was just that it was such shocking news that he was like, this can't be true. And he went and Googled for verification. And of course, there was nothing. So he was like, well, this is not true. Now, if you look really, really, really carefully on a big screen, because I looked at it on my phone and I was like, wow, that is really good. If you look at it on a big screen, there's a couple of tiny telltale signs.
What
Very,
was your
very
telltale sign? Because we talked about this before. You had watched a video and you went, it was really good, but I could just tell that it was AI generated. What was the telltale sign for you?
So on Sharon Niviolon, on fake Sharon Niviolon's iPad kind of thing that she has on her desk, so a lot of the text was perfect. Now maybe the text was added afterwards, or maybe some of the generators are really good with text, but there seemed to be a messed up RTE logo on her iPad. So that was one, but it was hard to even see, and so it was just a kind of ooh, that might be a sign, but it looked like AI messed up. The way AI messes up text, It had that look about it. The second thing was the reporter at the end, the deepfake of Paul Cunningham. In the background, there was people coming in and out of a building. And if you watch those people really carefully, they start to morph. And they morph, like 1 minute they're like people, and the next minute they're like shadows on the wall behind. And so that was the one that I was like, okay, it's definitely AI. But wow, you would have to be watching like super, super closely.
Do you know what? So I was looking at it, right? And I knew when I looked at it, sorry, I didn't know when I looked at it first, right? But I looked at it and I went, it feels like AI. And then I found out it was AI, and I looked at it again. And do you know what sort of triggered it for me? Because I went to look at it and go, what was it that was making me think this? It was the mouths of the reporters. And the mouths of the reporters opened too much, right? If you look at the mouths really closely, for the words they were saying, their mouths seemed to be too open. That was kind of the key.
I agree. And do you remember, it's funny because I went for exactly that reason that you were saying. I went and I looked up because I was like, this sounds familiar. And I looked up way back when Meta released a lip sync AI technology. And we talked about how it was really, really good, but that they over articulated the words. And this was kind of similar.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
now,
not...
just to go back to the first story, right? Why I think this is... Okay, I don't know what... I think as a society, I think we... Yeah, okay. So I think as a society, right, we sort of develop a sense of what is AI or what isn't AI, or we come up with ways of, sort of trust and verify. So I see a video, I'll go and check the news or whatever, right? So we come up with ways of knowing it. But why I think that things like Trump's video, where he's, dressed up with a whatever, it's a joke. It's clearly a joke, right?
Yeah.
But it muddies the water, right? So that at some point in the future, if there was a video like this to come out, like the Catherine Connolly video, and somebody says, oh, it was a joke, it becomes then very hard to distinguish, well, where is the line between what's a joke and what isn't a joke? And, is this actually real? Or is, what has actually been said that's truthful and what isn't? And I think it's more the polluting of the information ecosystem than the actual deep fake itself that's dangerous. And it's not dangerous. It's just, if you don't know what's true, well, then how do you know what's true? Or if you don't know what's real, how do you know what's true?
Yeah. I mean, it's dangerous in terms of over 100,000 people saw that deep fake of Catherine Connolly. And we don't know, like, I would say there are very few people who, like Barry Scannell did, would go and fact check it or verify it. And even fewer people are going to think, oh, this was AI generated. And we don't know the impact of that. We don't know how many people are staying home today as a result, thinking that there is no election. So, I mean, I think
most people are saying, oh, because they don't care. But anyway, that's beside the point.
So, yeah, I think there is a danger. I think, I think we have to figure out, and I know there's no easy answer, but we have to figure out how to be able to label these things, particularly when they go up on platforms. Like, the platforms should be able to detect, like, so as far as I know, like, it's very hard to say. Obviously, we don't know how they created this deepfake video. We don't know, but there was an earlier video posted to the same account as this one, and that video had a VO watermark in the bottom right hand corner. Now,
Yeah.
as far as I know, like VO have they have that visible watermark, but they also have invisible watermarking. Now, how easy is that to strip out? I'm not sure. I don't know right now. But certainly if that invisible watermark is present, the platforms should be making sure that it's not possible to publish something with that invisible watermark without it being really clear it's AI generated. Because with the Catherine Connolly deepfake, there was no VO visible watermark. However, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of it, where you would expect the VO watermark to be, there's a funny little blurry area. So I think someone just, blurred out the watermarking and uploaded it.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I wonder, is there, and I don't know how you'd make money out of this, right? But if you are a producer of news, right, or a producer of content, right, of any type, in fact, there should be a way where you can have like a web service or a website where you've got like a hash value or a footprint of what your content is. So let's say RTE in this case. And then if it goes onto a social media website like X or Facebook or whatever, it should almost be able to sort of look up your footprint to say, look, at this is, claiming to be from RTE, and that's easy to spot. And then you could talk to RTE and go, is this a real video or not? And then you should be able to flag it as false. Now, that technically, I can see how all that makes sense, right? And it seems like it should be possible. How you make any money out of it, I have no clue. Answers on a postcard, please.
I mean, but even at a simpler level, like there are technologies certainly that claim to be very good now at detecting AI generated video and images, but the platforms don't want them. The platforms just want to get away with it for as long as they can because, it creates divisive material that people comment on and share. And
all those things. But I mean, I wouldn't trust those tools, by the way. So, the only way you can truly know that it's real is by going to the source of the information to say, is this real or not? Right.
Yeah. But at least if there was, if there was a tool that was able to, rather than say like this is AI generated or not, which is difficult, but at least if the tool was able to say, there's an 80% chance that this is AI generated, there's a 30% chance, at least then people are thinking, oh, there's a possibility this isn't real. So
yeah, if I was Elon Musk now, I'd argue that community notes is that, and people can just put a community note underneath the post to say this looks like it's a fake video, it's not true, and maybe humans are the best line of defense against that. I don't subscribe to that. I think there should be an automatic way to do it. But anyway, also there was that case this week in the UK of the British MP. What was his name? I forgot his name now, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It was a fake. It was a fake video saying that he had joined the Reform Party.
Freeman.
George Freeman. Yeah. So if there's more videos for politicians, right, deepfakes for politicians, well, then you're more likely to get a pushback from the politicians that might then pass the law to say, specifically about politicians, you're not allowed to do that deepfake. I don't really care about other people, but not about the politicians.
Yeah, and we talked on the show as well before about the George Freeman thing and the Catherine Connolly thing. They're both pieces of news that, like, if you saw them and if you were anyway familiar with the people involved, you'd be like, oh, hang on, that's weird. Is this true? Because it's sensational enough in terms of the content.
Yeah.
But we've talked before about like what happens when it's not quite, it's negative, but it's not quite sensational enough to make you think, oh, I better check if this is true. Like way back when, in one of our earliest episodes, we talked about the AI generated image of the politician. There was a real image of him having pulled a fabulous looking pint at a festival, and it was AI doctored to make it look like he had pulled a terrible pint, and someone was looking at him like that's a terrible job. Like it's when we have like that kind of like mass manipulation at scale, and it's not bad enough to make you think, hang on, is this real? That's where we really need to be saying like, yeah, this might be AI generated, like, because you need to be thinking about it.
And just to put, because I'm actually reasonable enough to admit when, maybe we should be a little bit more careful than I might outwardly always say. For the listeners who are less than 10 years old, there was a company once called Cambridge Analytica, and they made a whole business out of moving elections by putting out, false news on social media networks. And these types of things will be a very effective way. So if Cambridge Analytica could move the dial by a couple of percentage points 10 or 15 years ago using the technology available at that time, you'd have to think that today's technology could be put to the same use.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So in one of our kind of more positive pieces this week,
yes,
OpenAI launched a web browser called Atlas.
I'd love to have used it, but it's only on a Mac.
I'm on a Mac, so I didn't even twig that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had a go. I downloaded it. Now, to be honest, I've had another AI browser sitting on my machine for I don't know how long. 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I have no idea. It's just been sitting there. I've never opened it. Never once opened it. I had every intention in the world to test it and everything.
Yeah.
So, but with seeing as ChatGPT is my chatbot of choice, I thought, well, I'll have a look at the ChatGPT one. So I downloaded it. I've had a poke around. I don't really get it. I like. This is why I haven't opened the other one. Like, I don't really know what I would use it for. I used it. I wanted to be able to talk about it today. That's literally the only reason that I used it. And in the way I was using it, it was for really silly things that make no sense to be using AI for. Like what does this word mean?
I mean, I could think of use cases that aren't possible with it yet, from what I believe, but might be useful. So I'll go back to my pet project that I always love, which is tell me when. Go check my utility bills. So it'll use a browser to go do that. And when my utility contract is nearly up, my electricity contract is nearly up, go research the market and tell me which which utility is gonna give me the best deal. Now you can do that already with search, but I can imagine that within a browser, the agent could then go and switch you from one utility to another. Right? That's potentially a use case. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked a bit about this during the week, right? My view is that these tools become truly useful when they become headless. And by that, I mean, you don't see the browser. It's running the browser in memory and it's doing things in the browser. And so when you say to ChatGPT, go book me a restaurant booking in the local restaurant at 5:00 this evening, and it goes on to the website of the restaurant and books it for you. But you never see, the browser doesn't open up in your machine. It doesn't do anything. It's headless. It's just running in the background in memory. And so that's, I think then they start to become useful. And I think they have to collect a lot of data before they can do that. And I think releasing a browser that allows you to click manually and that's agentic is a great way to collect lots of data so that they could use that data then to create their models on how to browse the web.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I mean, I set up Atlas and it said, hey, you should import everything from Chrome, passwords, bookmarks, history. And I was like, I don't think so, buddy. I don't know you well enough yet. Yeah, and again, in terms of me finding use cases, I'm probably not the best person to be trying to identify use cases, since the agentic capabilities are probably where you might find interesting use cases, but I am super cautious about any of the agentic capabilities. Again, for all of the reasons we talked about on previous shows, about how easy it is to manipulate an agent. And if it has, there's no way I would import everything from Google Chrome, allow it to be able to log into sites and then send it off as an agent to do something. I just think that sounds too dangerous until it's matured a little bit.
Now, what you have described just now, right? And yeah, you saw the video with Andrej Karpathy where he said that, ASI was 10 years away and, he wasn't really that keen on agents and all that sort of stuff. You've also read all the stories about how, the AI bubble is about to burst, right? I think there's a change in the zeitgeist. There's been a change in the mood. And I think I don't know, right, what this cycle is called, right? But it's very similar to a hype cycle where, there's been, you could almost say analogously that you could throw mud at a wall, right? And something sticks. So there's loads and loads and loads and loads of releases. And people get to the point where it's like, I just don't need that. I'm not interested in it. I have a browser, it does what I want. I don't trust that browser. It's a shiny new thing. I don't care, right? Show me when it can give me some value, and then I'll use it, right? And so in this case, right, OpenAI haven't articulated for you any value that you can get from using their browser. And I think this is the start of the point where, the wheat and the chaff start to be sort of separated from each other. And, I wouldn't call it a bubble, for instance, but it's just a sort of a point in time where people go, unless this thing has obvious value to me, it's a return to normal principles. Companies, spend all this money doing all this fancy AI stuff to say that we have, AI. But at some point, companies stop and go, well, hold on a second, we're a business, we have to make money. Is this giving us a return? And people are very similar, right? Where you got all these cool new shiny things. And then at a certain point you go, well, that's cool, but why? Like, why am I interested in this? And that's good, right? Because what happens then is the products that don't add any value will naturally wither and die. And we'll be left with ChatGPT, Claude, Codex, who knows? Sora,
Yeah.
I guess, will remain. But I think a lot of these products will die and fall away.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. You brought a story. You sent me a story, and I was I'm really curious to hear what you think of it, because it's a story from the same people that brought us AI 2027, which basically said AI is superintelligence is going to take over the world and possibly kill us all. There is a possibility that at one point, just before it gets too powerful and kills us all, the government will semi-privatize AI, and a small group of people will take power, and that wouldn't be good either. Which is that was their kind of two outcomes, as far as I remember. But now they've got a third possibility. And they've released an essay, which is basically about how the CEO of an AI company could take over the world. So did you? I know you sent it to me, but I assume you read it before you sent it to me.
From the studio that brought you AI 2027, their next horrifying tale. This Halloween, be sure to read.
It's a good Halloween read, all right. Yeah. And it's funny, I shouldn't be critical of the writing style. I mean, I think what they're doing is good. I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear. But I did feel like it was. The writing. What?
I totally disagree. I'm reading this.
Well, hang on before we get into it.
Write this.
Well, I wish he had, because that's what I was going to say. Was that I was expecting a good read. It reads a little bit. The style of it is a little bit like your nerdiest friend, that'd be me, recounting to you the plot of a good movie they saw in the most boring way possible.
Well, okay. Well, I'm glad that's what you thought, because in essence, right, I was reading this and I read it the first time, and I was like, it's a nice story, but it's totally divorced from reality. I mean, yeah, it is, right? There's no sense of, like, there's so many plot holes, or there's so many, leaps that are required for this. It's a bit like, actually, do you know this idea that agents are unreliable because 5% of the time they fail, and therefore if they've got 10 steps, they fail 80% of the time, or whatever it is? Well, this story, every paragraph will fail 5% of the time, and therefore by the end, the likelihood of this story happening is potentially zero. Like, it's just not, right? So, I mean, to give you some of the quotes for it. So they talk about this. They're sort of they've amalgamated the CEOs of all the big AI companies into this one dude, right? And
well,
yeah.
I'd say I was reading this and I was wondering, had they anybody in mind? So I read it very closely, and I don't think they've amalgamated all the CEOs. I very much think it's either Sam Altman or Elon Musk, but I don't see it being Demis Hassabis or Dario Amodei, because there are some just little telltale signs. Like, for example, they talk about that the security in a more mature company would have been better and would have been able to prevent this. So I'm like, well, then that kind of rules out Google. Like, Google's a pretty mature company. And there was something else about being anti-regulations. And I was like, well, Dario Amodei is actually quite pro-regulation, and Anthropic as a company is quite pro-regulation. That kind of eliminates them. So you're kind of left with Sam Altman and Elon Musk, I think.
Whatever. Let's not get into that. All right. So some of the, it goes on to, it talks about how, this guy might have been this fictional CEO, is going to be pushed to one side. He's no longer. It's going to be taken over, by the government. Which is that going to happen? Is the government going to take out over the AI companies? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, that's not quite in this essay.
Because it's talking about it, because it sort of pushes him to one side. He doesn't have direct control anymore. He's got much more government oversight. And in there, his nobler and baser motivations are in agreement. The government cannot be allowed to push him to the sidelines. Well, the government isn't. That's not how. I mean, Elon Musk launches more rockets to space than every other country combined, let alone the American government. And he's totally in charge of his company, right? So that doesn't pass the taste test for me. And then, so then it goes on to talk about how he actually puts in place his plan, right? And he has access to a model which is just he has access to. And it never refuses any of his requests. And, it's tailored just to him. Do you know how big these models are? Is he literally going to have a model just for him?
No, but that's not the way I read it. Well, the way I read it was that there was a model within the company that didn't have the same guardrails that the public would have, for example, which makes sense, I think. So I think I know what I'm not actually really disagreeing with you. I know what you mean. And there were some big leaps in there, but I mean, they even pretty much acknowledge this at the end of their essay. I think the spirit of the story makes sense. And I think, it's just it is a fact that there are people high up in technology in the US who believe that that they can essentially take over. And they've it's not even conspiracy theory stuff, because they've actually written essays about this. Now I'd have to go and look up my conspiracy theory archive to pull out the articles. But I have read essays from actual people high up in technology who subscribe to this view that it would be possible, that we don't, that they don't need all these levels of government, and that it would be much better off if you put the CEO of a technology company in charge. They'd run the place much, much better. There are people who actually believe this. And so I don't think
Sorry, go on, finish your point.
No, just that I don't think the story is a huge stretch. I think the specific mechanics of how it happens, are up for debate. And they even say that at the end of the story. Look, this is just one kind of fictionalized account, but it's just to get us thinking about these possible outcomes.
In unrelated news, I see that Grokkopedia was due to be released on Monday. That's Elon Musk's version of Wikipedia, but it was cancelled until today. It's going to be released sometime later this evening because it was too woke, and he didn't agree with the slant that it was putting out on the articles. But that's nothing to do with that story.
Grokkopedia. I hadn't even heard about Grokkopedia. We've actually, we've actually been a bit remiss. We haven't had a "What's Elon up to" segment for a couple of episodes, have we? I'm glad he's back with Grokkopedia.
Yeah. And that doesn't remind me of that story at all. And listen, we're running short of time. We call for the prohibition of the development of superintelligence not lifted before there is broad scientific consensus that it will be done safely and controllably, and there is strong public buy-in. 2 questions. Do you agree? Did you sign up? And how the hell are you going to get broad scientific consensus, anything, and strong public buy-in on anything relating to ASI?
I signed it. I think it's a very good idea not to develop superintelligence until we know that it's not going to have absolutely apocalyptic outcomes. And I'm still working on the plan of how to make those 2 things happen.
I see Jan LeCun came out and said that when they were developing the jet engine, if they refused to develop it until they could absolutely prove that it was going to be safe and reliable, they never would have developed the jet engine. So I'm with Jan LeCun on this one.
There's a lot of interesting signatories. So we had Jeffrey Hinton, Yoshua Bengio, Steve Wozniak, Steve Bannon was in there. Mary Robinson was in there. Did you spot that?
I saw Mary Robinson in there too. God bless her. Yeah.
Joseph Gordon, another Irish president. Good day for her to show up on the.
Who was that last name?
No, I was just saying Mary Robinson, one of our previous presidents.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
Thematically linked. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Richard Branson, Prince Harry, Yuval Noah Harari, and of course Stephen Fry, who instigated the Red Lines one as well. So yeah, look, I'm not saying it's going to have any impact, but yes, I'll absolutely sign it. I mean, I take it you didn't.
No, the more. Anyway, I won't say what there's more chance of me doing, but no, the total. It's not going to happen. It's about as much chance of that happening as the story from the people who wrote AI 2027. That rubbish happening too. So there you go.
I think you not signing it makes the 2027 essay that little bit more possible. But
I'd really signing it. Makes any difference? $430 Kamagachi. This is called a Furdle, or what sort of a thing is
Furby.
this now?
It's like a Furby. Did you ever have a Furby?
No.
I had an ET Furby.
Oh.
And it was fantastic. I loved it. It creeped me out occasionally, and that was even like, it didn't have AI, but it still had this kind of, that its character would grow over time and its abilities would unlock over time. And I distinctly remember I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and we were just chatting away. Next thing, ET up on a shelf somewhere suddenly decides it's going to unlock a capability, opens his eyes, and starts telling this big long story that appeared to be linked to what we had been talking about. We were freaked, and that was with no AI. So I can't.
You were telling me about this before we came on air, right? And actually what it made me think, because it's nearly Halloween, right? It'll be Halloween this day next week. Why has nobody come up with like a sort of a scary thing like this, right? And it's got sweets in it, and it's got a camera. And so when the kids come up, it'll say something, right? And, oh, little boy with the red hair, and it sort of says something to scare them, right? And they should be connected, right? So when he goes to the next house, if they also have one, that got to give you a network effect, is, hey, little boy, you already took 2 Mars bars. And it's sort of some of these little scary things you to have at Halloween that you could leave outside your house. I'd buy one, as long as it was 30 quid.
So what they have come up with is this new kind of evolution of the Furby in a way. Yes. But it's actually, you know what it's like? Are you a Star Trek fan?
Love Star Trek.
Do you remember the Tribbles?
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to think. It's a Tribble.
It's a Tribble. It's basically a furry thing. It doesn't appear to have any, facial features or anything. It's just a furry thing, and it squeaks and moves. Now, one of the reasons I was really interested in it was this. I was also reading loads of articles about, the friend, which is the thing you wear around your neck. It's a little white circle. And it's basically, we've got a lot of these now, these AI wearable devices that listen to you constantly, and they can text you messages. And
vote for you, hopefully soon.
But what?
Vote for you, hopefully soon.
Yeah. So the differentiator for friend is that it's not productivity related. It's literally just meant to be a companion. And I've been reading articles from people who have been trying it, journalists who have given it a go, and they have universally and unilaterally hated it. Because it's just a kind of a shallow, sycophantic relationship. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't get into the nitty gritty. It's just like, oh, you're having cornflakes. Yes, breakfast cereals are an important part of any diet.
Yeah,
but then, more. On the other hand, you had this journalist using this I should have remembered the name of it, this Tribble thing from, I think it's from Sony. Is it from Sony?
Casio. It's from Casio. And it's
from
a
Casio.
Mouflin. Yes.
Mouflin. Right.
Yes.
So the Mouflin is this Tribble-like furry thing that squeaks and moves. It doesn't communicate in our language. So it's a little bit like having a synthetic gerbil, maybe. So the journalist was like, well, I'm going to hate this, but I'll give it a go. They ended up loving it.
Go away.
And I just found that fascinating. And I was like, here we have this thing that can like literally communicate to you in your language, and everybody hates it. But this AI powered thing that just squeaks, they love it. What is that about? I don't get it. I wouldn't pay $450 or whatever it was for one. but at the same time, I'm very curious to experience it now.
Maybe it'll be this Christmas's whatever smash hit of toys for the kids. Who knows? Very good. Look at Frank. Pleasure as always. We're up at time, and I look forward to another exciting week in AI.
Chat to you then.
All right, take it easy.